On behalf of Busboys and Poets, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion with scientist, educator, and human rights activist Zafra Lerman and Monica Baumüller about Lerman's latest release, Human Rights and Peace, A Personal Odyssey. We can celebrate, that's what we're here for. Thank you,
But in other countries, scientists have a very, very high status because the governments recognize that a lot of things cannot be done without scientists. Even not building weapons of mass destruction, you need scientists for that. And therefore, scientists have the responsibility to use their science for peace instead of for war. So this to bring together under one roof for 5 days people that don't have any other chance to get together. They are coming from countries that are at war with each other, and here they come for 5 days and they spend the whole day together. They stay in the same hotel, they eat together, they walk together. Nobody is separated from each other. In addition, there are several Nobel laureates always that come to the Malta Conference. And what it does, it gives a forum for people to see what unites them than what separates them. It gives a forum to develop friendships that overcome the chasms of distrust and intolerance. It gives a forum to develop collaboration that otherwise could not be developed. Now, the Middle East, the countries are very close to each other. I'll give you an example of Israel. From east to west takes 45 minutes to drive. That's all how wide is it. From south to north, it's 5 hours drive. So the countries are very close to each other. Now, I usually have a PowerPoint, what I don't have here. I would like to show the map of the Middle East. The map as the environment sees it, as nature sees it. You only see lines on the map. The way the astronauts say it, there are no lines. All these lines called borders in the Middle East were put by the British in aqueducts under the ground. The water doesn't know where the British decided to separate and call this Jordan and this is Israel. The water goes through the whole country. So if there is an attempt to want on the issue of water, and there is water scarcity in the Middle East, there is a lot of arid land, countries must collaborate. No country alone can solve problems on climate change, on water, on the environment, on air pollution without collaborating with each other. So these people, we have now 700 scientists in the network and 17 Nobel laureates that are part of the network. They all participated in the Malta Conferences. And slowly, slowly, we hope that these people will make a change. My statement is always, I don't know if you know, that in order to have an atom bomb, you have to have enough uranium, and especially uranium, not every uranium. It's uranium that is called uranium-235. In order to have an atom bomb, you need a critical mass of uranium-235. It's below this amount, nothing will happen. Only from this amount that is called critical mass and above. So you need critical mass of uranium to start a chain reaction that will cause the atom bomb. My dream is to have a critical mass of scientists that will start a chain reaction for peace.
So another thread. You were talking the other day. We were having breakfast, and you were talking about how other people have tried. Certainly, we all know that many people have tried to build peace in the Middle East. There were other people who tried to use science conferences to build peace in the Middle East. And you were talking about someone who gave you some insights about equality and how you use that in the Malta Conferences and why they have succeeded where others have failed.
So, okay, I'll take you back a little bit. There was in the US a foundation called the Albert Einstein Peace Prize Foundation. And this foundation was giving every year a Peace Prize, and the people that received it, most of them received the Nobel Prize after that. But in addition to that, the Albert Einstein wanted to do something between Israel and Egypt. Because, as you know, there was a peace treaty signed between these two countries, but there was nothing going on. It was more a no-war treaty, but not a peace treaty. So the idea of the Albert Einstein Foundation was to bring together in a neutral place agronomists from Egypt, an agronomist from Israel, and work together to develop a agricultural settlement, what is called a moshav. There are two different agricultural settlements in Israel. One is the kibbutz, that is a complete commune, and one is the moshav, where they share the sale of the products or producing different products for meal, but they live separately. So the idea was to build a moshav, and because the Egyptians did not have the knowledge how to do it, the idea was to bring them together with Israeli agronomists, so they will have to work together, and with that, starting spreading the word and have more collaboration between the Israelis and the Egyptians. Why did Egypt need it? It goes back to the Aswan Dam. This is a dam in Egypt built next to the city called Aswan. And the Russian built the Aswan Dam. Now, all of you probably know that there is the Niles in Egypt. The Niles used to overflow, and it has a lot of nutrients. So when the Nile had an overflow, it went for miles, and the fields were getting the nutrients they need, and it was a very good agriculture. But after the Russians built the Aswan Dam, the Nile did not flood anymore, and all these fields died. So therefore, the idea was to replace the agricultural communities with something like a moshav. The delegation that came from Egypt had a very famous scientist. His name is Mahmoud Mahfouz. He's an MD and PhD. He was President Sadat health minister and the head of all the cancer research in Egypt. And what he told me before we started, the night before, he said to me, the Americans have the tendency to come like an 800-pound gorilla and tell everybody what they have to do. If this will happen, we can all go home. The only way that this thing will succeed, and what is important in the Middle East, is having equality. If everybody is equal, let's see what we can learn from each other. And he said, better tell it to everybody. I was on the executive committee of the Albert Einstein. And he said, explain it to everybody before we start that this is how we have to take it. Let's see what we can learn from each other. And this is the motto of the Malta Conferences. So everybody is equal there. There are huge differences in the level of science in all these countries. But you don't know that because everybody acts equal to each other. The Palestinians always like to tell me that they always hear in conferences, oh, our poor Palestinian brothers. In the Malta Conference, they are equal to everybody else. Why? Because we pay the expenses for everybody. Everybody stays in the same hotel. The Nobel laureates, with the graduate student, with the distinguished scientists, everybody is in the same hotel. Everybody eats the meals together. We have bigger tables so more people can sit together. They talk together, and this is the basis of the success that really there is equality. Now we need to have plenary lectures. And plenary lectures usually are given by outstanding scientists. But in order to keep the equality, we are having plenary lectures only by Nobel laureates. We let Sweden decide who will give a plenary lecture in the Malta Conferences. Only Nobel laureates. So it's not that one country is on a level to give a plenary lecture and another country not. So this is the reason that we have Nobel laureates with us, and they give the plenary lectures and they interact with all the participants and really help them with their own science. So this is how we maintain, and we pay for everybody. How do we pay? We have to raise the money. We don't have anybody behind us. We are a non-for-profit. We don't have any paid employee. Everybody is a volunteer, and any penny that is being raised goes towards the Middle East participants.
Have you ever run into any challenges with some of the delegates being able to get to the conference for political and bureaucratic reasons?
It's not for political reason.
I think we're going to switch out the mic. That one's a little bit, you can just put it right back a little bit.
Thank you. The biggest challenge is really not the raising money is a big challenge. You have to raise $400,000 for each conference. If we would find a nice sugar daddy, it's peanut. So if any of you know somebody that can act as our sugar daddy, please notify us, because it takes a lot of time that we could do other things towards peace instead of raising money. So this is a very big problem, but the bigger problem is that there is no country in the world that want to issue a visa to all this group. We have scientists, we have Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Turkey, the Israelis, the Palestinians, both the West Bank and Gaza. We have representatives from most of them. And no country wants. This country doesn't want the Iranian, and this country doesn't want the Syrian, and this country doesn't want the Iraqi, or they don't want all the three of them together. So this is the biggest problem, and the hardest to solve. And it takes a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of contacts. without developing personal contacts, it cannot happen. It's the conference was in Morocco because Morocco promised that they would give a visa to everybody till 2 months before the conference. Then I met with the ambassador here in Washington several times, no problem, everybody will come. But 2 months before the conference, he notified me that not Iraq and not Syria can enter. I flew to Morocco, I met with the highest rank, not political person in the State Department, and I said, I need visa for all of them. And she said, look, there is no way we can give a visa for Iraq and Syria. I will tell you just half of the story, so the other half you will have to read in my book, because all the proceeds of the book goes to Malta. So I will not tell you all the story. I knew that in Morocco, the main advisor to the king is a member of a lot of peace committees. So I thought that if I can get to him, he will help me. When I asked the ambassador said he can give me his office phone number and his office email. I said, no, I need a cell phone number and a personal email. He said, what do you think we have it? I asked the foreign ministry, they couldn't get it. So I realized that I could not write something like that to an official office because the answer will come from the office. You must be out of your mind. What do you want? The main advisor to the king to get you visa? And then in a very, very interesting way that is described in a few pages in my book, how I managed to meet somebody that gave me his phone number. But this is like a mystery, the part that you have to read. So I'll pass this part. I'm going to, I have a phone number. I'm not sure it's his cell phone number, but I have it. I come home and I call and I said, if it's not him, I'll say, excuse me. And I called and the man answered. I said, are you Mr. Azula? Yeah. It's him. So I said, I almost fainted. It means that my way of getting the number, not from any official office, because they really didn't have the cell phone of the main advisor. And I described to him my problem. He said, I'll help you. And he said, but you have to send me all the information. So I said, look, but all what I have is your cell phone number. How can I send you all the information? So he said, when we hang up, I'll text you, now I have your cell phone number, I'll text you my Gmail. I said, a nice way to get rid of me. But I hung up, and 2 seconds later, the Gmail arrived. And then I sent him all the information, and he really started working on helping, and he managed to get the visa for the Syrian upon landing, not in advance. Upon landing, they will get a stamp, but not Iraq. And it's coming already very close to the conference. So then I wrote him an email and I wrote, when will we have, by the way, Morocco is not in the Middle East, but they participate on their request. But they're a Muslim Arab country, but they're in North Africa. So I wrote to him and I said, how will we have peace in this world if an Israeli Jewish woman has to fight with authorities of an Arab Muslim country to bring in distinguished Arab Muslim scientists to work for peace. And the next day I got calls from the foreign minister, the interior minister, a list of ministers, and all of them said, we read your email, and I said, wow, I didn't want to come to Morocco with a flag. I'm an Israeli Jewish woman. I didn't want publicity like that landing in Morocco. But anyhow, they all worked very hard, but we still had a big problem. And the conference always starts Sunday evening with a reception and dinner and knowing each other. And I was sitting in Morocco already with the Minister of Tourism having coffee. And it's Sunday afternoon, a few hours before the start of the conference, and I get a call from Baghdad, from Iraq. And the Iraqis said, look, we don't have any letter that says that we will get the visa upon landing. Usually they are supposed to get the letter, otherwise the airline don't want to let them on board. But we managed to get boarding cards somehow. So I looked at the Minister of Tourism and I said to him, what do we do? And he said, only the Foreign Minister and the Interior Minister together can issue the orders to give a visa upon landing. I said, what do you want? All the newspaper in the world having that distinguished Iraqi scientists landed in Morocco and were put back on the plane, could not come into Morocco because they did not have anybody that gave the order to stamp the passport. I said it will be a scandal all over the world. The rest is in my book. It's a long story. But they arrived at the end.
And I can attest to everybody, I received my autographed copy of Zafra's book on November 7th, and I did not think that anything was going to make me smile that week. I was sitting on my porch, and I started reading it, and I was a little embarrassed because I was laughing so hard. And I thought, what are my neighbors going to think about, why is anybody laughing right now? It's a fun book. I'm going to go to an earlier section. We've described this book as genre busting. Part of it reads like a Cold War thriller. There's a chapter called If I'm Not at Breakfast, called The Embassy.
Called the American.
Called The American Embassy. How did your lifelong human rights work bring you into dark alleys in the Soviet Union after midnight?
Towards the title of the book, we have here a representative of the American Chemical Society. For 26 years, I was the chair of the subcommittee on scientific freedom and human rights for the American Chemical Society. And we worked a lot on human rights. The situation in the Soviet Union with scientists was really, really bad. A lot of them were fired from the job. There was a group that was called refuseniks. They requested to leave the Soviet Union, and because of that they were fired. They were isolated from any scientific material. Many of them were sent to hard labor in Syria, and they were blamed for being parasites that they don't work. And they were in a very, very bad situation. So I went a few times into the Soviet Union, and I don't know how many of you remember, there was a very famous dissident, Russian dissident, by the name of Andrei Sakharov. He was the father of the hydrogen bomb, and then turned to a person that fought and devoted his life to the anti-nuclear race and to human rights, and the Soviets exiled him to a place called Gorky where he couldn't see anybody. It was a very, very bad situation, and I managed to meet with him, and he gave me the advice to take a crash course in Russian, because he said everybody that will translate for you, doesn't matter which officer what he or she will come, they will be KGB agent. So you're not interested in that. So I took a crash course in Russian and went back to the Soviet Union several times, always with a group of scientists. That they were my cover. We were guests of different universities. We lectured, we interacted, and usually after dinner, I would look around who will be brave enough not to be scared that the whole group can get into trouble. And I used to tell this person, usually a woman, if you don't see me for breakfast, call the American embassy and don't ask questions. Now it was not allowed to give scientific material to these people. It was against the law. It was not allowed to deliver seminars to these people. And it was not allowed to take their CV and bring it back to the US in order to help them. So I did all these three things. I would go after midnight and we would arrange in advance that I will meet one of these people in a dark alley, and then we will go and collect more people, and around 2 a.m. we would get to some attic. There would be 50 of these people. I would distribute scientific material that I brought with me, and I would give them a seminar, and then collected their CV to bring back to the US and work on their behalf. And there are today a lot of, they were scientists, all of them. I have to make it clear. It was not every dissident, it was scientists. And a lot of them are now working and successful in the US as a result of this effort. And there is a funny story there in an ACS meeting about two of the refused it, but it's a long story. It will take too long, and it's only a few pages in the book.
Well, I want to jump now to a bar in Chicago. So many of the people in this city, I know at least a few people in this room right now have recently lost their jobs. That's happening to a lot of people here right now. You were once worried that you might lose your paycheck, and so you took a bunch of undergraduates to a bar. Tell us about that.
I didn't think I would lose the paycheck because I never got a paycheck by that. I arrived to teach after doing research on a subject called isotope effect. Well, I just explain it or on a podcast, what is an isotope. I decided, I went on sabbatical for 2 years to Switzerland, and then I wanted to teach, and teach people that would never take science in their life. So there was a very, very progressive president at Columbia College Chicago. He built this school, and he really looked for a special person, so he sent letters around that he looks for a person that is involved with disarmament, human rights, excellent teacher, and my name came up, and I came, and he made an offer to me to start a science department. Then we started a science institute from scratch, and he said, I don't care what you do. We need science here. Columbia was a school of art and communication. I have a colleague here that taught with me, Sky, and I offered a class, chemistry in daily life. And the way by that stage was that the students were registering is that it was a big room, much bigger than that, and every department had a desk, and there were faculty from the department that were registering the student, and then they would go to the administration and give the form. So few of the students were persuaded to take my class, chemistry and daily life, when they came to their professional departments, like theater, like television, film, art, dance. The faculty said to them, what, chemistry? You do not need it. I never had it in my life. Why should you have it? And they would erase it and told them to take another class. So I just arrived, and I said to myself, oh my God, I will not get a paycheck if I don't have students. So across the street was the Congress Hotel that had a very big bar there. And I said, okay, I'm taking a group of students to the bar, and I took them, and I had like 20 of them, and we went there, and we sat, and I said, I didn't have money, but I said, this is my investment, so I said, you can order everything you want, and they started ordering Bloody Mary, screwdriver, green grasshopper, and I never heard this word before in my life. I thought, what is it? So I said to them, I don't understand the word that you are talking about. And they said, oh, it's the drinks. I said, what is the drinks? So we sat around, and one said, it's tomato juice and alcohol, orange juice and alcohol, and all that. And then inspiration got into me, and I said, what is alcohol? And they said, something that makes you high. So I said, yes, but what is it? There are a lot of things that can make you high in this world, especially in this country. After a short while, I drew the structure of ethanol, what is the alcohol, on a napkin, and they all copied it, and I said, this is what you're drinking. And when I realized that there is interest, you could order salad there. I ordered big salad for everybody with oil and vinegar. And then I asked them if they have any idea was it vinegar. So they didn't know. I said, it's acetic acid. Then we drew on the napkins acetic acid. And then, by that stage, the whole bar was in my class. And then everybody had the ethanol and acetic acid. And I said, you know, if they are combined, they form a product that is called an ester. And this can be even used as a nail polish remover. So all of them said, now we have nail polish remover in my stomach. So I said, no, because you need a catalyst for them to react with each other. So then we explained what is catalyst. And the whole bar was there. There was not anybody that did not come to my class. So when I finished all this explanation, the story is longer in the book. When I finished it, I said to them, okay, anybody that will take my class, the semester is 15 weeks, you have only 14 left because you already had the first class in chemistry and daily life. After that, I never had to bribe people to take my classes, but this is how I got my first class.
For questions from the audience. Zafra, when you were a little girl, why were you sad when your family got hot running water in the house?
I grew up in a developing country, so we didn't have hot shower. But there was in the center a big place that there were hot showers and everybody went there. So from a very young age, we all walked together without our mothers with SUVs driving us. It was a lot of fun not to have the mother going with you everywhere. So we used to go a group to take together the hot shower. It was a social event. It was beautiful. Nothing was more entertaining than that. And one day I came home and my parents were so proud and happy to show me that they installed the hot shower in the house. And I cried. And I was so angry at them. I said, you did it on purpose to spoil my social life. I thought it's the worst thing parents can do to a child, to have hot shower in the house.
You raise your hand.
You always have one great person and then the questions are coming. Sky, you usually are not shy, eh?
Do the same scientists attend the conference every year, or do you try to make it different sciences?
Do the same scientists attend the conference?
Very good question. Oh, it's you, Lara? So it's a very good question. Yes and no. The first Malta Conference, the first day, every country sat like that, separate table. There was Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, everybody separately, and it took a long time to make them mingle. This is why we don't have a company member, because in chemistry it's known when you dilute the solution, the reaction is much slower, the interaction is slower. So we don't want to dilute the interaction with the company members, so they are left at home, so the interaction will be stronger. Since then, it's half and half. Why? Because the half that is already used to come is already meeting the people like they meet their relatives in a family reunion, and the new one fell immediately into the same half. So yes, it's half and half in the big conference. This is why we have 700.
Make sure that scientists feel safe talking about science and not worried about national security concerns when they're at the conference?
The conference by itself has a lot of security and everything is off the record. And the people, by now we have already 10 conferences like that, and the people feel very comfortable with each other. The problem was the first time. The first time was very tough. But now there is a tremendous trust in each other, and this is one of the reasons that we pay for everybody and we have to raise the money, because we don't want the countries even to know that anybody is going. And so the question will not be, with whom are you going to meet? Who will be there? So all they know is that their scientists are going to a conference where the ratio between Nobel laureates and the participant is practically 1 to 15 or 1 to 20. Usually in a conference, in every other scientific conference, I'll give you an example, the American Chemical Society, we just had a conference in San Diego. How many people were there? 15,000 or something like that. We had one Nobel laureate. Here, the ideal number is 80, because 80, everybody can already know each other after 5 days, and it's family. But by demand, we had to, by invitation only, we had to raise it to 100. But still, we have several Nobel laureates. In the beginning, we used to have 6. But now that the people are not used to the structure, because the Nobel laureate gives lecture. In a lecture, the people sit and don't interact with each other. The interaction is the first time they were only men. The first Malta Conference had only 4 women. Now I know in Washington it's not allowed to talk about gender equality. But I'll tell you about gender equality that we work very hard, because in the Middle East, there are countries that women cannot travel alone. They must be accompanied by a husband or a brother or a father. And because we have a law of no accompanying member, the first Malta Conference had 4 women. The 10 ones, that is the last one we had one this year, we had 40 women. Because of the trust already that was built. And the people are feeling very safe. The people that were there got into trouble. And this was a period where they tried to kill the ambassador from Saudi Arabia here. And they tried to kill Israelis in India and Thailand, and became a big problem. So, in addition to the fact that the people got in trouble, I got in trouble, because they wrote 2 articles about me. The printed article did not have comments. They had one online with a lot of pictures. And the comments there were awful, that all the people that participated should be in prison, and I should go. And one credit I gave them, they did such an accurate research about me that I almost offered them to be my ghostwriter for my memoir. They did a very, very, very accurate research. The conclusion was not accurate. The conclusion was that I work for 2 agencies, the CIA in the US and the Israeli Mossad, and that I tricked the ignorant Iranian to fall into my trap and give me their secrets. And there were a lot of pictures all over. And the online, it ended all the time, death to Israel, death to America. And the State Department suggested that I don't fly abroad for a while because of that. But this was the only incident, and it was really one of our